Mi chiamo Fabrizio, io sono italiano 100%, quindi monolingue. E poi mi sono trasferito dopo l'università, sono andato a Barcellona e ho iniziato un master in Spanish as a Foreign Language. E mi manca da finire la tesi dottorale per completare il dottorato in Spanish Philology, ma per questioni sia personali sia professionali sono venuto qui negli Stati Uniti e ho iniziato un PhD in Instructional Systems a Florida State University. Ho insegnato 4 anni a Barcellona, ho insegnato spagnolo a studenti americani e ho insegnato anche italiano all'Istituto Italiano di Cultura. E adesso sto insegnando italiano, ho insegnato per 2 anni e questo corso insegno Italian for Spanish Speakers e spagnolo, quindi sono diciamo in tutte e due le divisioni. E questo anche perché per far capire che io ho vissuto in prima persona anche con il catalano a Barcellona, Intercomprehension, ad esempio io capisco 100% catalano scritto, un po' meno orale, diciamo un 90%, però la mia produzione è abbastanza carente. E come Irene stava facendo notare, noi abbiamo lo stesso syllabus in Italian for Spanish Speaker 1 Italian 1120. So basically, I will keep on in English. Basically, when they assigned me this course, they told me like, you can do what you want, but at the end of this class, students have to be able to switch to Italian 2, 1121. And to do that, I really have to follow the syllabus of Italian 1120 because there are activities, vocabulary activities, some cultural activities, especially expressions that you don't usually teach, like bo, or I don't know, me la cavo, or fare brutta figura, expressions like this. And then we have a strong grammar component. The course, it's a 4-credit course, even if there's a little mistake. It's a 3 weekly meetings, and we follow a comprehension-based approach, mostly also communicative approach. So, what's the problem? There's reduced time for in-class intercomprehension activities. Basically, there's really few time to do anything that really explodes the Spanish knowledge of the Spanish background of my students. And so most of the activities, intercomprehension activities, I make them do at home. So how do I do? Because basically I want to do something to make students be aware of their knowledge. They know Spanish, so they're really close to learn. It's easier for them to learn Italian than other students. Now, so I focus especially on written language, that's intercomprehension, most of it intercomprehension, and I also try to give them, as we were saying before, some cultural aspect, some cultural notion of what's going on in Italy. The first day I usually tell my students, you already have a beautiful idea of Italy. It's like the postcard idea, the movies idea. I want to give you the real idea. It's like, that's one reason I'm here and I'm not in my country. I don't want to kill their dream, but I also want them to see, you know, that's a country with the beautiful things, but also the real things. Well, today it's all day that we are together. I don't really know your background, or where are you coming from, if you teach in a high school, or middle school, or college, if you can tell me quickly. Do you teach college, high school?
Mostly college, 4 or 5, we are from high school, I think.
Okay, mostly college?
High school.
Okay, middle school, okay. Okay, because I want to do some intercomprehension activity. I don't have time, so as I say, I do it mostly at home. I make my students do them mostly at home online. I will go back to this. How do I do that? I do it using a Facebook page. Also, I'm a researcher. I'm instructional system student, so my research is focused more on how to use social media to integrate and enhance language learning. So for me, this is my field. But I know that, for example, in high school, you can probably use a social network like Facebook. There are other safe options like Edmodo, for example. I don't know if you are using okay, no, well, Edmodo. Yeah. Okay. So my question for you is like, do you integrate face-to-face classes with online practice at every level? Okay.
A volte c'è una mancanza della tecnologia dentro dell'aula e anche perché a volte non sappiamo dove trovare alcuni materiali di
Okay.
supporto.
Altre persone? Online practice can be also.
All'università io credo che tutti siano più o meno platti. Facebook adesso anche l'università stanno riducendo, cioè stanno
Accesso.
sconsigliando perché ci sono tutti i problemi di privacy eccetera per cui ci sconsigliano di usare Facebook o dobbiamo creare delle pagine apposta per la classe.
Certo, sì, certo. Okay, quindi learning management systems, Moodle, for example, Blackboard, Collaborate, you're using, and
I also use Facebook, but in terms of privacy, what I've done is created a private group so that my students and I call it Amici di Baruch. I make it worth a certain percentage of their final grade, and they are they are given assignments, for example, to create certain things or to comment on certain, perhaps a commercial, the Fiat commercial. So to compare and contrast Italian families versus American families. So it's very useful for me, and this is a project that I've been involved with for about a year now. I'm using also Facebook.
we could talk about that later. Well, this is the following question. So what are you using? So learning management system, social networking sites, social media. We already said that. And for intercomprehension activities, which online resource would you use and why? For which kind of activity? Maybe to stimulate students to read more in Italian. The web? Oh, for example, which kind of website?
Well, for example, I give you an example. We were looking for a profile, internet web profiles of people so that the students could do a small web profile.
Okay.
So we took some web profiles that were not a specific site, but we looked for sites that had a picture and a description which was easy enough to be understood, stuff like that.
Okay. And then students were like.
And then they're copying
modeling.
the model. I mean, having a model, that's important for them.
Okay. That's great. Other ideas?
Authentic for interpretive readings, the main idea, and supportive information inference using reading strategies, using scanning and skimming, borrowed words,
Okay.
use cognates, many different things from authentic materials.
Wow.
A lot of Italian. Agriturismo, I do a lot with that, or lower levels.
For the first level?
And the high school one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because my students are, I taught 3 times Italian for Spanish speaker 1 and just 1 time Italian for Spanish speaker 2. So basically, everything that we see today is for beginners, total beginners. And we see activities that I did immediately in the first week, the first 2 weeks. Okay, so let's go back to Facebook. I talked briefly. Why Facebook? Because it's the most accessible social networking site. obviously, from our students and users on Facebook connect and engage in interactions. But what I do, I use, as I show you, is a Facebook page. So I create a page that's called Italian for Spanish Speakers, and students just have to go there and like it. So we are not connected at all. I tell my students the first day, please not to befriend me on Facebook, and I tell them that they are not supposed to befriend each other. If they want, I'd like them to be friends, also to create a group, but so the privacy is respected. In all the courses that I use Facebook, also other courses, I just had one case of a student who didn't want to use his personal profile, or who just erased the profile, I don't remember. But the other cases, there was no problem. So Facebook gives the advantage of being like present in students' lives. So basically, when I post something that can be in the afternoon or can even be by night, I know that some of my students are connected in that moment, and they can see what I posted because they liked the page, so it will appear on their news feed. And so that I go beyond the barriers of formal instruction and the physical and temporal barriers that we have in class, and so the language is pulled to them like at every moment, 24 hours a day. Also, there's an interaction, student interact with the material, they interact with me, and also they interact among each other, they collaborate there. And there are less structured hierarchies. I'm just a facilitator of information, I'm not a guide. As I was saying, we are not reciprocally connected. So there's respect for the person. There's some study on this that says that privacy is respected. Learners are involved actively, so they also share resources, they take part in discussion and participate in the activities, and the material, as we were saying before in other interventions, are authentic because we use material from the web. They are contextualized in the Italian context, it's retrievable from the internet. And also there's another important aspect, it's like the mobile aspect of the activity. So everyone has, not everyone, but most of my students has a smartphone that they use in class also as a dictionary. And so students are pulled to the course, and as I was saying, the language is always present in their life. So let's go just a second to the web page. This is Italian for Spanish speakers. So I have basically the structure. I use a homepage where I post mostly material, like for example, this post is about Eat, Pray, Love. So I asked them to watch the video. There's some gesture that they like to learn, and also then I ask usually just a simple question like this: Come si traduce il dolce far niente? And so in my class now I have 22 students. I didn't tell you before. I have 22 students. 2 of them are grad students, and most of them are heritage speakers. Just 3 of them are American who are studying Spanish. So I have 22 students that can reply to the same little question. So how do I grade that? I don't grade the answer because when it's inverted here, when Juan said the dolce far niente is la dulzura de no hacer nada, or Sarah said the sweet sensation of not doing anything, what can you add? Nothing. I mean, the answer is there. So I grade these activities just as participation points. I'm jumping on my presentation, and so I increased the participation grade for my students compared to the Italian 1120 class. We have 14 weeks, but I basically just use 12 because one is Thanksgiving and the other one is the first week. So my students are graded participation points, 6 points, 3 days a week. So if they do well, they're in class 2 points every week. It's 6 points, and then I ask them to participate at least 4 times a week on Facebook. So basically, if they just go on Facebook and they copy the answer of Juan, Sara, and Andrea, it's 1 point out of 4 to reach the 10 points, the weekly points. So I'm not strict. I'm not even grading the correctness of their writing. And so I tell them, like, this is for you. Okay, you want to do it, you do it. You don't want to do it, you have a bad grade, or you want to copy. Well, you are in college. Come on. It's like you are here to learn, not to trick me. You can agree with this system or not. It's like what it works for me, and well, I usually have a few answers. And also here on the homepage, I use it to post at least 3-4 times a week a news from internet and ask them questions. So let's go back to the presentation. Okay. So on the Facebook page, there are 2 main types of activities: the practice of the grammar topics and vocabulary covered in class, and the intercomprehension activities. Also, students can share material, and I do this too. As I was telling you, there's one post, 1 point. These are other activities that I do with my students, because also on the Facebook page there's a homepage, and then I create a weekly event. So every event corresponds to the vocabulary that we are covering in class in that moment. And in that event of the vocabulary, I also put some grammar notion. So basically, this is one activity that I do with them. For example, di dove sei, that was the first week of class. Tenete il nome della tua città e della tua nazione. I always give them a little example, and so students do that, practice. It's just a little practice, but instead of doing it when it's homework time, they usually do it when it's leisure time because they're on Facebook. So it's like the language comes to them like in an unexpected moment. First week again, pratichiamo non, scrivi 2 frasi su di te e 2 frasi sulla tua città, una positiva e una negativa. We are doing in that moment, this is the La mia città event, and so we are practicing non, that's the grammar that we are doing that, and also we are using just a little vocabulary of the La mia città. Okay?
Do you ever in class address any of the errors, or do you just let them go?
I do it.
Generally, do you do it in a different context, or?
I do it. I don't have too much time, so I weekly, usually on Monday, go through what we did on Facebook. So we go through the answers. When there's something like really wrong, I point it out, like, hey, this is not like this, or if someone posted a video and I think it's worth to show my students, but not like constantly. Also now Facebook gives the possibility to reply to comments, but just on the home page, while all the activities are on the event page, and there I can't reply, so I can't give them feedback, but on the home page I can do that. I just wanted to show you really quickly how it's, this is the home page, and I post things, and then here I put a milestone code, and I say, okay, this is what we do this week, La città dintorni. I create an event that's like a party, you know, like on Facebook when you invite someone to a party. It's like, it's this. And so I I ask students first, cosa c'è nella tua città? Pubblica una foto e descrivila. I give a little example, and then I ask my students to do the same. It's a little practice, but they enjoy it.
Yeah, I just would like to make a comment of the use of outside and online tools to really enrich the cultural background of your class. You could never do this with a textbook. In a textbook, you're stuck with something. But if the city is your topic, and you let the students then introduce the city where they're from, where they live, or where they would like to go, these kind of things, suddenly you have an explosion of activity. And I think they like to do it if even more so if it is not necessarily graded.
Exactly.
And they kind of like become more creative and kind of like venture and become daring a little bit with the language.
Since I use social networks, I have also a better relationship with my students because I know them better, in a way, and they know each other better, and the groups are stronger. I use for many years Twitter with my students. It's another kind of activity. It's not related to intercomprehension, but I really got to know them really better because every day they had to post something about their life. So it's like they get to know each other too. Okay, so other activities and well, this can be done in every course. Doesn't have to be intercomprehension focused. My class, as you could see, has an adapted intercomprehension approach, not as other courses. Okay, this is last thing. Students post videos too, and they follow my example. Quali frasi riconoscere? This is for second week of class. Io comprendere Timon dicendo molto bene. Okay, they wouldn't have done it in another context. Okay, so for the intercomprehension activities, I got inspired when I went to Los Angeles in the end of October to did that intercomprehension workshop. I got to read for the first time Euro 5, and so with my students I adapted really in a simple way the principles of the book. So basically, I make my students access news on Facebook. They are authentic, they are current, and they have to be short. And they are related to Italy. Most of them are like news that happened, something that happened in Italy. I make them translate the title in Spanish. I translate the title in Spanish to make them understand better, and I give them a vocabulary box for the words that I know that they may not understand immediately. But there's no grammar explanation, and we have to deal just with two languages. So I just give a translation of the vocabulary in Spanish. And then I ask them questions. And the sources, I was like thinking this summer, I usually read La Repubblica, that's a newspaper, one of the most famous. But no, there's no way my students can read that. So I thought, okay, let's go to some Italian news agency, and I found ANSA, ASCA, IAGI to be useful for that purpose. So let's go to ANSA and let's try to find the news for my students. Con una crisi torneremo e saremo staggi nowhere. There's no way they can understand even who is this guy. I usually try not. Since Berlusconi has gone, I don't talk about who's the president because it's too complicated. With Berlusconi, it was easier. Excuse me? Esatto. So basically, there's just a few news that I can use. Also, let's go randomly to this one. What I see immediately is that this is too long, for example. So I go back and I usually start from the bottom, and there's notizie in breve, and I try to find news that can be appealing for my students, that happens in Italy, and that's short. Let's see, for example, before I found this. Rubato a una mostra i pony più piccoli al mondo. So, they have to understand at least the title, so that's why I translate it for them, as suggested by Elisabetta Bombino for Euro 5. Exactly. So this is something that's not really related to Italian culture, but happened in Italy. It's short. I would say that this is a good article for them. Okay. I don't know if you have this copy. I can project it if you don't. I prepared a worksheet that was at the entrance. I don't know if you already took it. We don't have enough copies for everyone. Does someone have it? No? I was in the folder? Oh, great, great. Okay, so basically, a couple of weeks ago, I found this new news. Gli rifiuta 5 euro, lui la uccide. So what I want you to do, you can work in maybe in couple or group of threes or by yourself as you prefer, is leggere la notizia e tradurre il titolo alla lingua o alle lingue romanze che parlano i tuoi studenti. E poi leggere la notizia e individuare le parole che possono non essere chiare for Italians, for Spanish speakers that study Italians, e presentarne una traduzione. E alla fine creare delle domande to test their comprehension of the article. Se lo vogliamo fare in 3 minuti. E le parole che sono più problematiche per Spanish speakers that study Italian, e poi creare 1, 2 o 3 domande related to the text that test students' comprehension. How it can be work on something like this. This is what I wrote to them. I gave them these words, for example, cortelate, navajadas, pregiudicato, delinquente, or reati contro il patrimonio, maybe they can't understand that, and rifiuto, denegazione in this case. And I asked them these questions: come si chiama l'assassino, come si chiama la vittima, che cos'è l'uomo? This question is not really clear, maybe. So and they will find it, un pregiudicato. Che cosa significa essere un pregiudicato? Come ha ucciso la donna e perché? And students reply. They usually copy and paste the questions. If you take 30 seconds to read this. Sometimes they have some problem of comprehension. She stabbed him. Okay. So basically, Anna, Sol, Frank, and Kat will have 1 point out of 4 that week in a maximum of 10 points of participation.
Do any of them answer in Spanish?
I asked them to answer the language they're more comfortable with. Someone tries to answer in Italian, someone answers in Spanish, someone in English. So I gave them a little survey, and the day they were just 18 in class, nobody strongly disagreed with any question, so I didn't put it. Let's go quickly through this. They say that they like to read news in Italian. They strongly agree or agree, most of them. And they usually read the news posted on Facebook. That may not happen. It's anonymous, so they could have been honest. They usually understand most of the information, and the vocabulary box helps them to understand better the information. I feel I can understand a great deal of written Italian. Well, it's not surprising that half say yes and the other half say or they disagree, because it's 2 weeks that they are reading Italian and learning Italian. So, reading news in Italian helps me learn Italian better. Most of them strongly agree. And when I read news in Italian and I see a grammar, structure, or vocabulary that we already covered, I usually recognize it. We covered just a little in 2 weeks, so this is why maybe there's half and half. I would like to keep on reading Italian news for the rest of the semester. Almost 40% strongly agree with that, so I will keep on doing that. Also, I asked my students to do once in the term to present themselves one news in front of the class. So students have to do exactly what we did together. They have to find the news, look for a news, find the news, read the news, look for all the vocabulary that they may not know, prepare some questions, go in front of the class, make students read the news, make students answer the questions, and facilitate the information as a professor. Benefits for the students: they enter in contact with authentic and current written material in Italian. They have to comprehend really deeply the text. It's an enrichment for them, and they practice as a facilitator. Maybe this is not too important for their future profession, but also, the other students have a daily in-class intercomprehension practice. We start the class with that, and they reinforce the comprehension skill, the written comprehension skills, and also the feeling of self-efficacy in Italian, and they warm up. They warm up for the class. This is an example of Christian. What did he linked to the news, and he asked 5 questions. Then the students replied in class. So I show you, well, the video is 6 minutes long. I don't have time to show you, but just the beginning. This is Bridget. She's a grad student, PhD in Spanish, and she was the first one who did this. Let's see how it worked. Okay, I have to, sorry, the volume is down. Okay, so now students are reading. Okay, we can hear really well. They're asking, what's the meaning of this word? And she's having a little trouble finding the word in the text. But, no. È al massimo. Sì.
Es que el papá está hablando. Entonces, cuando ustedes ven eso. Esta palabra otra vez quiere decir task.
Che ragazzi,
Che ragazzi.
ai ragazzi di avere,
Puede,
recomiendo ragazzi.
es muy difícil encontrarlo.
Okay, she doesn't find the word. That's it.
Oh,
Giovanni.
okay.
Giovanni.
Giovani. Giovani.
She was saying Giovanni. Giovanni. Okay, so they are reading now the text, and then there's the questions.
Sí,
Part.
sí, muy bien. Necesito una respuesta formal, ¿no? Alguien necesita leer. Número 4. Cristina, por favor.
Dove allora la giornata mondiale della gioventù?
Sí. Esatto. En la primera, la audiencia general no ocurrió en Rio de Janeiro, ocurrió ¿dónde?
Volvamos al artículo, por favor.
Sí,
Piazza Pietro.
dice aquí, ¿no?
Piazza.
Sí, exacto. Entonces, ahora,
Okay. Actually, I didn't tell you, if you turn the page, you have the article and the questions written by the student. I didn't tell you. Okay, and just to finish, I will ask you, what do you think about this activity? Students doing this, how would you improve it? Or would you include it as an intercomprehension practice in your class?
Well, in New Jersey and a lot of the high schools, we do a lot of instruction using modes in alignment with the state curriculum standards, and we do interpretive, interpersonal, and presentational. So all the aspects that you have covered would fit very nicely with the manner in which we present. Everything's kind of communicative like that, but we go beyond that, we do modes.
Okay.
And so this would fit in very nicely with that.
Okay,
And
that's
it's a
good.
very nice presentation.
Thank you. Or do you have other questions not related with, not answers to this question, but do you have other questions? Because we have to finish.
And just quickly, you mentioned you used Twitter. I was just wondering how you used it and what did you do? Was it related to intercomprehension? No, it's not?
No, the only thing that's related to intercomprehension, I asked them to follow Italian speakers, but there's no an activity that they have to do related to that.
Okay.
They just have to write a daily tweet.
Maurizio, a question
Fabrizio,
about...
sorry.
Oh,
No,
scusa.
it's-
Fabrizio. I was just wondering, based on my own experience with Facebook, Amici di Baruca Facebook, I noticed unless I specifically tell my students to use complete sentences or 3 to 4 give them a specific number of sentences, that they tend to revert to the Facebook way of communicating, which is in very short, very snippets of words that, in a sense, I'm trying to, which counteracts exactly what we're trying to do in class. So have you encountered that, or how do you
Yeah.
deal with that?
Yeah, I actually want them to answer this way, especially when I do the activity on Twitter, because I consider it like as bridge between the formal instruction and the formal communication. So, and also this is really close to the oral communication. So that's another reason I don't correct them. I want them to be spontaneous, to write informally, to make mistakes. And so I never say anything about this, but I'm completely fine. I actually want them to be that spontaneous. We have time in class to practice more formal grammar.
I really enjoyed this presentation. I got a lot of ideas for both classes, but I was just really struck again by, here it is, this is like the second week, the third week, and look at the kind of text that these students are reading. I mean, they're working with language in really different ways, and the intercomprehension piece is, bringing them to the kinds of levels with reading that encourage them to go on and do a major or a minor because they actually can read at those high levels. It's really interesting how we've been kind of doing some similar things on different ends of the coast as we've thought about how to work this. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.